Recently I did two separate videos on two different hero archetypes, the Nomad hero and the Hunter hero. Nomads are characterized by their passive style of heroism. If they stumble across evil, they will combat it, as any hero would. But in those moments of calm, they're enjoying their life and living by their own rules rather than seeking out other people to save. There's not some grand mission to serve, they're just good people. These are your Sonics, your Gokus, and your Sherlock Holmes. Whereas hunters are almost the polar opposite. They'll still help those in need and save anybody who needs saving, but the priority is and always will be the hunt. There is no such thing as a moment of calm to them, because somewhere out there is evil that needs to be hunted down and punished. These are your Punishers, your Doomslayers, and your Dexters. But this leaves a pretty big gap. What about those people who share traits from both? Those who hunt evil when necessary, but view hope and redemption as being more important. Those who serve as a symbol for any in need. Those who fight to help rather than to harm. Those who take the good-hearted nature of the nomads with the strong sense of duty of the hunters. This is the hero we all know and love, the Paragon archetype, the very best of us. Let's not fuck about, it's Superman. He is the hero. Strong, brave, kind, helpful, approachable. There's so much history to prove Superman as a paragon of virtue, I truly do not know where to start. I wish I could start at his newest movie, but I'll get copyright striked if I even show David Cornsweat's fucking forehead curl. Regardless, it's the perfect example. He's not infallible, he's as human as anybody, which means he makes mistakes. But he wakes up every day and thinks, how can I make this world a better place? The best part about Superman is his symbol is so powerful, it goes past his movies, his comics, and his shows. Just look at this video. Everybody loves Superman. The S truly does stand for hope. I'll leave Superman there because I've already done an entirely separate video about the GOAT. However, my next example is going to raise some eyebrows. I just need you to give me the benefit of the doubt. Avatar Aang. I know, how the fuck can I put the literal air nomad in the Paragon archetype and not the nomad archetype? And at heart, I agree, Aang was born to be a nomad. He's clearly always been a good kid and he was never going to be evil, so I have no problem saying in another life he'd just be like any other nomad type, helping where he can but chilling where he can too. Unfortunately for Aang though, he was also born the Avatar. And a big part of the story is that he doesn't get to run away from that responsibility. Once he starts to embrace that, he actively sets out on a quest to literally save the world. You could argue that's reactive heroism in the same way that the other nomads do, but it doesn't just stop with the Fire Lord. He devotes the remainder of his life to helping those affected by the war, shutting down threats to peace where necessary, and reviving the culture of the air nomads. If Aang had retired with the occasional good deed after the war, he'd probably fit right in with the rest of the nomads, but he didn't. He ventured forth to make sure he was always helping people and living up to his title of the Avatar, even at such a young age. His heroism has always been active rather than reactive. That's a paragon, brother. Don't hate the player, hate the game. Hopefully you're all still here after my choice to remove Aang's Nomad title, but I think nobody can disagree with my next pick. Optimus motherfucking Prime. I'm sure by now we've all heard Peter Cullen's speech about how he created the iconic Optimus voice. Be strong enough to be gentle. I can't think of a quote that better encapsulates the Paragon archetype. And remember, the key defining trait for the Paragon hero is to be proactive in your heroism. Regardless of what your external circumstances are, there's good out there to be done, and the Paragon is the one who will do it. In a lot of Transformers media, Cybertron is destroyed, or at the very least, borderline uninhabitable. To lesser heroes, this means the war is over. There's no more mission to uphold, no home to fight for. But the fight was never about Cybertron. It's about hope, it's about freedom, it's about America. Jokes aside, whether it's Cybertron, Earth, or the whole galaxy, Optimus fights to resist tyranny. In a way, I think he's the perfect contrast to Sonic. As you may remember, the reason Sonic was in the Nomad category is because his heroism is usually reactive. He starts most of his games just doing his own thing until he finds somebody being a dick and steps in to set things right. Whereas Optimus does the same thing, but he doesn't let tyranny come to him. He'll seek out injustice and fight for anybody who deserves it. Which is also why he's an incredible leader. Not to mention he's really fucking cool. Another king of this concept is everybody's favorite Boy Scout, Captain America. My favorite part about Captain America is that he represents an ideal, not a country. He's not blindly devoted to the flag he wears. He knows better than anyone America has its flaws, as does any country. So it doesn't matter which government it is or what tyrant is on the other end of his shield, he bears it for those behind him, the people. And not just the American people, any people. This is best shown in the Civil War storyline in the comics, or the Winter Soldier movie in the MCU. Just like Optimus, just like Superman, and just like Aang, the world could be against him, but it doesn't matter. Before he became Captain America, he was Steve Rogers, and somebody important to him told him to stay who he is, a good man. Even after losing everything, his best friend, his beloved, his future, his mission, effectively his whole world, one thing hasn't changed. There are still people out there who need saving, and Steve's never been one to sit around and let them go unsaved. I know I'm beginning to sound like a broken record, and the reason I left the Paragon video until last is because it's the classic hero archetype. Most of you already know this stuff. However, I think there's another key defining trait specific to the Paragons, which Steve exemplifies better than most. Redemption over punishment. Steve is a soldier. He's killed people. But he never takes pleasure in it, and he never rushes to it. His weapon of choice is a shield for a reason. If it can be avoided, Steve would never opt to kill willingly. He says it himself. He doesn't want to kill anyone. Still, that doesn't change the fact that Paragons can and will kill. It's just that unlike the Hunters, it's only ever for the sake of protecting the innocent, not for the sake of punishing the evil. I think it's safe to say this video has been pretty dramatic so far. Where's the dog? All the characters I've named have saved the world at least once. The Paragons don't have to all be so grandiose or idealistic. Meet Ted Lasso, a simple football coach, one who absolutely radiates positive energy. Anybody who's seen this show knows exactly what I'm talking about. He's the most annoyingly charming, happy, upbeat, chatty, friendliest guy you can possibly imagine. And he's going through some real shit. I don't want to spoil things because honestly, the show is so underrated. I'm probably going to do an entirely separate video on it at some point. But there is one thing I must spoil. You have been warned. Ted outwardly states that the reason he's so proactive about checking in on people and making sure they feel seen and loved is because his father took his own life, and he had no idea how bad his father was hurting. He never wants anybody to get past him without knowing if they're hurting ever again. So, no matter what he's going through, no matter where he is, who he's with, or how against him everyone is, Ted's going to keep trying to make everybody's day a little bit brighter. To me, that is as heroic as it gets. He also checks the redemption of a punishment box. People wrong Ted regularly, and he's not a pushover. There are times he'll put his foot down, but it's almost never out of anger or this need to punish people. It's just because he feels that's what's best for everyone. and if the situation calls for forgiveness, you can see it in his face. He's almost relieved that he doesn't have to push this person away. But probably the best thing about Ted Lasso's version of the Paragon is he's critiqued. Quite a lot. Don't get me wrong, we all love Superman, we all love Optimus, and we all love Captain America. But they are essentially perfect, at least morally speaking. Ted, on the other hand, isn't. He makes decisions that are sometimes reckless. Although he always chooses to be nice, that doesn't mean he chooses to be right. And the show has characters that call him out and expose the flaws in his idealistic way of thinking. It's a much more grounded and realistic interpretation of somebody who has truly heroic intentions, but just kind of fucks it up from time to time. It's wonderful, and it's truly worth a watch. So I think we've now well established what it takes to be a Paragon. Proactive over reactive heroism, an emphasis on protecting the good rather than punishing the evil, but still a willingness to do both. And finally, unshakable values that extend to any environment. Some of you may be thinking that another key trait would be some kind of leadership. And you're half right. Such is the case with All Might. As I said at the beginning, Superman is 100% the number one Paragon. His symbol is so powerful and so iconic, it extends to the real world. But I'd say when it comes to being a symbol, All Might is a very close second. This is because Superman makes an emphasis on being human. He might be stronger than anybody, but he likes to be perceived as just a regular guy. This has a few benefits, one being that villains often underestimate him, two being that it encourages other people to follow his example, and three being his secret identity. If Superman leaned into the whole God with a heart of gold thing, it would make people view him as a lot less approachable and a lot harder to emulate. However, All Might shows that the other side of the coin isn't all bad. He bears all that burden on himself by constantly smiling and stating, "I am here." He wants to appear strong and unwavering in the face of evil so that people believe in him. Even if the world is crumbling behind the scenes, people will feel safer knowing their number one hero is as invincible as ever. This might be one of the best forms of leadership I think I've ever seen in media, because of how closely it reflects reality. For example, if you're the leader of a small company and everything's going to shit, you can't pay people on time, you're on the verge of shutting down, you can't afford the office rent, the worst thing you can do is let your workers see you panicking. If they think their job security is at risk, they will start looking for better offers immediately. A good leader will shoulder these burdens, find a way to make it work, and still come into the office the next day with a smile on their face to keep the peace. But I said you'd only be half right about leadership, because although it's an important trait and one that helps the Paragon along his or her journey, I don't think it's 100% necessary. Such is the case with everybody's favorite C-class hero, Mumen Rider. By the way, in case you're curious, Saitama is 100% a nomad type. Anyway, Mumen Rider is a bit different, because in the world of One Punch Man, he is extremely weak, at least physically. Compared to the other Paragons on the list, who tend to be the most busted in their respective universes, including Ted Lasso, it's hard to imagine that Peter Cullen's quote of strength equating to gentleness applies to Mumen Rider. But that's why I like him, and that's why he made the list. He exemplifies the most important trait of the Paragon more than anybody else, an enthusiasm for good deeds. You don't have to be a superhero to be a hero. It's about showing up. It's about going out of your way to make the world a better place. It's about seeking out those in need instead of letting them come to you.
It's not about winning or losing! It's about me taking you on right here and right now!
But let's be honest. If a guy like Mumen Rider actually existed in a world like One Punch Man, it would have been wraps a long time ago. I mean, somebody with so much less power than anybody else against odds that great, surely he'd be dead by now. Or would he? Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce you to Desmond Doss, a real-life soldier who upholds the Paragon archetype better than anybody else I've mentioned today. Desmond was born in Virginia on February 7th, 1919, to a shoemaker and a carpenter. In his early adult years, he worked in the shipyards as a joiner. Because of this, when World War II inevitably rolled around, he was offered a draft deferment. He refused and was signed up to the 77th Infantry Division. Now, obviously that's heroic enough, but here's the real kicker. Due to religious beliefs, Desmond refused to bear arms in the infantry. For those who don't know, practically all you do in the infantry is bear arms. And Desmond signed up knowing this. He knew he was going to be bullied and harassed by his fellow soldiers. He knew he would be sent to fight the enemy. And he knew he had no chance of survival. But somehow, he came home with a Medal of Honor. He did this by running into the battlefield of an active war zone, supplying medical attention to injured soldiers and carrying them back over friendly lines. He did this 75 times on one deployment. Imagine being subjected to torment and abuse by the very people who are meant to be your comrades, punished for your religious beliefs daily, and when you finally get permission to sit in safety and basically sit out the battle, you willingly run in to save those very bullies. And when you're lucky enough to get away with it, imagine doing that 74 more times. Not only that, but Desmond also attempted to save some Japanese soldiers too. I get why some of you may not like soldiers, but there is nobody on this planet that can tell me Desmond is not a paragon of virtue. He showed proactive heroism, an emphasis on protecting the good rather than punishing the evil, and unshakable values that extended to any environment. And while I'm not asking you all to fight in World War III, I do hope this video inspired you to act more like some of our favorite heroes and taught you what separates them from the higher-than-life nomads or the harsh but necessary hunters. I have one more archetype video in mind, but please let me know if you have any other suggestions, and until next time, I will see you soon, brother.